Great, thanks so much for that very insightful presentation. Now we have around 20 minutes for questions. Please raise your hand and I'll take an order, and then Salam and Paula will be able to answer them. Okay, so should we take in groups or do you want to take one by one?
What do you think?
Please keep your question very short, very brief, and I'll take three first. So.
Sorry, in any conflict resolution.
Do you mind to introduce yourself? Sorry.
Sorry. Abdullah Said, quarter Kurdish, quarter Arab, Lebanese, Iraqis, and work in all Arab world. Then I know what I'm talking about, but the history may not. Then I talk my experience. In any conflict resolution, we expect two sides present their case. Now, the academic side probably try to be as balanced as possible, but our Kawakibi, I thought he will be more to the Kawakibi history, Abdurrahman Kawakibi and his book, but still he has only one side, Iran, okay? And anyway, I don't blame him because there is a school of thought that developed. I see there is 2 points from the academic side hasn't been raised. The economic crisis in due to drought and the nature of the follower of the conflict and why it's expanded so much, including the Turkish Syrian free trade and its impact, economic impact. The second side is the importance of the Qataris gas oil supposed by, okay. And the third thing, the huge orchestration and the involvement. I remember first Dar'a demonstration, I was driving home hearing the RTE news, and to hear in the main news, 1 o'clock news, someone from the RTE ringing Damascus and someone talking in Damascus in very fluent English as an eyewitness, seeing the what they call it, Basij, the Iranian Basij, and Hezbollah shooting the demonstrator in very clear, confident. How this happened? While Syria never came as interest of this. Surely there's a lot of following that. I have seen, I heard in the BBC where a lot of things which is orchestrated in the media.
Okay.
And this is academic question.
Thank you. Okay, so we have the second question from Malta.
Yes, I'm Walter Shanai from Budapest, CU and Göteborg University. And Salam, I have a very simple question. You said that refugees are entitled to work in Turkey. I have been to Istanbul and Ankara in September, and in both places what I heard was that Syrian refugees generally don't have a work permit. They are allowed to become entrepreneurs, set up their own businesses, but they do not get a work permit. So if you could clarify that, why do you think they do get it?
Third question, if someone has, okay, so Aki on the back.
Kisato Suzuki from Dublin State University. My question is, what could we do to tackle xenophobia or Islamophobia in countries to which refugees come? Would a claim to humanity work, or would we need a more pragmatic approaches, such as emphasizing the economic benefits of immigration?
Thanks. So we'll come back to the panel. Just brief answers.
Yeah. Perhaps my speech, it was not very academic, as you said, but your question also. As you said, I am very proud to have Abdurrahman Kawakibi as grandfather, and he used to fight against despotism. and I fight against despotism. I'm not only a scholar. And I cannot be balanced when I spoke about the Armenian genocide, about the Kurdish Halabja genocide, about the Jewish genocide, and about Syrian genocide. We cannot be balanced. I don't know if I was very focused on the Iranian. I spoke about the Iranian involvement, but also about Russian involvement, about the other part of the international community. To talk about the economic issue, it's a very important issue, and thank you to mention, but it's not the agreement between Turkey and Syria. It's the structure, economic structure in Syria who used to be the capitalism of the state in the 70s, under the bannier of socialism, but of course he transformed under Bashar Assad to the capitalism of the clan. And in the middle of the 2000s, hundreds of thousands of people from Al Jazeera, from the east side of Syria, lived to the neighborhood of the big cities as Damascus and Aleppo, and many of them used to come from the Kurdish area. You know better than me that the Kurdish area was under security control, without any right, without any paper, even no nationality, no property right, no language right, no cultural right, and the Kurdish paid a huge price before the Syrian revolution, since the 16th in Syria. And now about the Qatari gas, you know perhaps, or you must know that the relation between Assad and Hamad was very good relation, and the Prince of Qatar offered to Assad a palace in the Lu'lu'a island in Doha. And all the main investment in Syria, it was between Qatar and the cousin of Assad, Rami Makhlouf. In the economic issue, Qatar was more comfortable with the regime than with the other regime. But it's not the issue of the gas, because Qatar, they have their gas and they don't need Syria to go through Syria to export their gas. My colleague about working in Turkey, only the syndicate oppose against engagement of Syrian laborers in the industry. But if you are Syrian, you want to work as in all the fields, you can ask for permit of work. And my friends, and we have an office in Istanbul, and all my friends, Syrians, have Turkish permit residence and work, two permit, one for residence, one for work. But I agree that the syndicate of laborers oppose, but it's very political, because as Erdogan, as the AKP show himself like very open to the Syrian refugees, the other party, especially CHP, they are against this politic, and they accuse Syrians. They like Syrians. Personally, they don't have any problem with Syrians, but they use, as everywhere in the Europe now, they use the Syrian issue to fight against Erdogan. They talk about security issue, about taking the work of the Turkish, as usual everywhere. And it's the syndicate, it's very close to CHP, more than the AKP. The AKP is not very close to syndicate, because the syndicate are from the leftist side of the political society.
What would you like to intervene? And then we have the first question regarding the pragmatic or humanitarian response to.
Yeah, maybe I can try to answer to Haki questions about how to tackle Islamophobia and racism in refugee receiving countries. It's a huge problem. I wish there were some recipe which could just apply, or policies we could just apply and get rid of all racism and negative stereotyping. But I would go back to what I said before. I really think it's a process, if you want. It's a process that is very much also dependent on, for instance, the geographical location of the countries receiving refugees. I am Italian, and I've been comparing, the public discourse of Italy during these days and what I have heard, have been listening on the radio and Irish media, and there is a huge difference. There is a huge difference in terms of, the Italian public discourse being much more polarized and being much more radical. I think this is this goes back to many factors, but one of the factors is also that, we have been watching refugees drowning in the Mediterranean for decades. So geographical location is really important, considering that Ireland is kind of more marginal and kind of more peripheral to the movement of people. But again, just to go back to what I was saying, I would definitely go back to to what I was saying before in terms of the relevance and importance, I think, of education, the relevance and importance of policies of integration and public funding for those policies. I think it's not a ready-made solution that we can have. But it's a process that I think needs to be put in place by by governments, basically.
Okay, great. We have one more question. Anyone else wants to ask a question? Okay.
Thank you. It was very interesting to hear this gentleman and the lady speaker. Sorry, I don't have the names to hand. I've been involved we have a little group called Irish Syria Solidarity Movement, and it's just, I just wanted to ask the Syrian gentleman if he might have some advice, because in Ireland, the horrific pictures we see from Aleppo and the destroyed Aleppo that are so moving, that hasn't really been the dominant, you don't really see too many pictures like that on RTV. And looking, even in the Bosnia conflict, which I followed, there was a lot more footage on the ground. So I think Assad was very clever in the beginning when he actually got rid of the journalists in the beginning. And then subsequently you can go if you're embedded with the regime. But they don't, but the actual horrific imagery that this gentleman has shown has not actually been shown too much on RTV screens. And the horrific barrel bombing. Last night, Claire Daly and a different panel on Vincent Brown, and they were talking about the Western bombing of Daesh, but they have never opened their mouths about the barrel bombing of Assad and the way that has added to recruitment of Daesh. They have been silent on that, and it's an absolute disgrace that they have been so silent. And second of all, while it's terribly important that we accept refugees and we might as well empty the whole country at this stage, but of course people won't be welcomed, they'll end up dying in ditches in Eastern Europe. But the thing is about, are we helping actually, this aspect, are we actually helping Assad to clear, he wants all the Sunnis gone out of the opposition areas, but that aspect isn't being highlighted. Are we actually helping Mr. Assad to ethnically cleanse those he doesn't want to be there? And the final point, if you may, sorry, there is a reluctance. We hear all the time about Saudi Arabia arming the jihadis. We had Farouk Habib, the wonderful man from White Helmets, here last week with our group, and he spoke to the Joint Commission on Foreign Affairs, and he said, you must immediately start mentioning Iranian militia equally with the jihadis from Saudi Arabia. But in this country, because I saw on primetime last year, and a politician who attended the Farouk Habib meeting said to me, they have an actual, they say, oh, well, Iran has to do that because else Daesh will arrive in Iran. There's a kind of, maybe it's, they should be treated equally. Jihadis from Saudi, jihadis, they should get equal condemnation. Yeah, thank you.
Great. We're getting the final question from the gentleman in front.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank Mr. Salam about all his points who highlighted I'm from Syria. And I would like to ask about, there is a video on social media and Facebook, it's for Ahmad Hassoun. He's a mufti in Syria, and he's the regime man. And he said that I don't know if you saw that video. He said for pump themselves.
Kamikaze.
Yeah, and they are already there, and we will do something bad and these things. What's your reading for this video? And another point I would like to highlight it, ISIS, for who they sell their oil. Second, from where they get their weapon. Third, from who give them a good opportunity to get more fighter to their side. Thank you.
I can go in the next round if you
Yeah,
want.
exactly. No, I think we have to close with questions, but because two gentlemen and the lady have 3 questions each, so Salam, please.
Thank you. For the first question concerning the communication of the regime, of course, the communication of the regime is as performant that as the communication of Daesh. They do a very good job on the communication issue, both of them. And perhaps they exchange expertise. The regime from the beginning of March 2011, before March 2011, it was very difficult for a Western journalist to go in Syria. After March 2011, it was completely forbidden. But we have what we call the citizen journalists inside Syria. Usama is one of them. Unfortunately, all the press agency in Western country refuse all the pictures and the movie coming from the citizen journalists because they considered them not very credible, or they don't have the confirmation about the place, about the time, about the date, and they have many pretexts to refuse this issue. And of course, when Daesh décapité, beheaded one person, you have this issue in all the news in all the world. But when the regime in the same moment bombard Aleppo with barrage bombs, killing more than 500 persons in the day, civilians, you don't see anything in the media. I can tell you a small story. In the beginning of the revolution, French journalists go to Aleppo, and he asked me for a contact between the civil society. And he called me after that from Aleppo. He told me, I am in Aleppo with your friend in the civil society, but nobody from them, he is jihadist. I told him, yeah, because we don't have jihadists. It was in 2011. He told me, no, I need a jihadist. I told him, make your work and say, I don't find jihadists in Aleppo. He told me, I cannot, because my editor-in-chief sent me to Aleppo to write about jihadists. If I come back to Paris without a paper on jihadist issue, I will be sanctioned. It was a very known journalist. And after that, now we have à boire et à manger, as we said in French. We have everything in Syria. We have jihadists, we have extraterrestrials, we have Martian people, we have everything. And for Hassoun, Ahmad Hassoun, who used to be in charge of sending all the jihadists to Iraq in the 2000s. It was his mission. I know him personally. Everything was doing in his office in Aleppo. After that, in the beginning of the revolution, he was a little bit hesitated to have a position. And the regime killed his son. His son was involved in the demonstration. And he received 100% the message. And he started to be the porte-parole of the repression. And this video is very important. And now I think all the French and European security service look on very deeply because he was very clear. He said in this video, if we will feel ourselves threatened by any foreigner intervention, we have hundreds of kamikazes everywhere in Europe, in the United States. With simple order, we can ask them to explode themselves everywhere. It's in 2013, this video, 2 years ago.
Okay, all right, so we have to finish the session here. We'll have a chance to talk during the coffee break. Thank you very much to both panelists and to you all. We'll have roughly 15 minutes for a coffee break outside, and we will